We are honored to showcase a passionate teacher who is an advocate for quality, meaningful, relevant, and student-centered education to children from all backgrounds, with a focus on turning schools into places where children feel safe, happy, and excited by inculcating a curiosity to learn and discover. She's highly skilled in early childhood education, inclusive education, teacher training, management, and team coordination. She's Anupa Gnanakan representing India. Her session title is Civic Sense is equals to Common Sense. Hello, Anupa. How are you?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you, MP. I'm taking the liberty of calling you MP for that wonderful, wonderful presentation. And I also agree that happiness is such a key factor in our children's education and their learning. I think their learning is highly affected according to how happy they are. Okay, so I have kind of logged in from two screens because I want to share my screen on one device and see everybody else on the other. So just bear with me while I figure this out. I am so sorry. I am almost there. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Anupa.
Okay, so what I am going to be presenting today is a guide on civic awareness, and the title of my presentation is Civic Sense Equals Common Sense, and that's how I feel today. And so let's find out more. But before that, since we've been sitting for an hour, we've been listening, and I know how tiring it can be sitting in front of a screen. Just a little icebreaker. If you could change one thing in your country, in your city, or the world, what would that be and why? Would anyone like to unmute, or would you like to type it out in your chat box? Or okay, I'm trying to look at the chat. Okay, would anyone like to type out or just unmute and tell us, what would you change if there was one thing that you could choose to change, what would that be and why?
Hi, Sheikha. Would you like to speak? Please unmute yourself. Thank you very much.
Okay,
hi,
my
name is Sheikha.
Yes.
I'm a teacher from Oman. Yeah, as a teacher, I would like to change in our education system, maybe the way that we are teaching students, maybe allow them the teaching process to be more related to their life. Yeah, and teaching them more life skills, and focus on life skills better than, more than the content. I meant if I'm a biology teacher, more than biology itself. So maybe teach them more life skills. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Anybody else? I can see some in the chat box as well. Someone would like to change roads, remove corruption, change the education system. I would like if people of my country would obey traffic rules. Wonderful. Anybody else? Okay, so if someone had to ask me, I mean, obviously, that's what I'm presenting on. So I would want to change the civic sense in my country, and that's what this session is about. So let's just move on to see why I think I want this to be changed. Before we go into the why, I just want us to focus on what. What is civic sense? Civic sense is social ethics. A lot of people assume that it is just about keeping the roads and public property clean. But civic sense is more than that. It has to do with law abiding, respect for fellow men, and maintaining decorum and being responsible in public places. In short, civic sense is common sense. Again, I want you to, I want us to engage a bit. I really don't like just talking all the time. I would have loved it if we were all in the same room and we could interact with one another. What we need to make do while we're on this screen together, can you type out in the chat box an example of a lack of civic sense that exists in your country or in your city? You could also unmute and tell us. Okay, someone says parking in forbidden space. Would someone like to speak?
Yes, good morning. Good morning,
Good morning.
everybody. Good morning. Good morning. This is Alexander from Ghana. Sorry, I cannot put on the camera for now. But I just want to speak about this important aspect of your presentation, which has got to do with lack of civic sense in my country, in my home country. This is something that is really disturbing, and it's about illegal mining. If any one of us have access to internet, they should just type the state of water bodies in Ghana, and that is appalling. So I'd like to talk about that illegal mining with respect to the with respect to the climate change. I think it is something that we should not actually get ourselves involved. If we have families or any body who is part of any government that is into making the climate change a possibility for the world to come to a better place in the near future, I would like to suggest and advise that we should actually find a way to educate people on climate change with respect to illegal mining. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Alexander. Yes, very important. I can see in the chat box people saying that spitting in public spaces, spitting again on the roads, littering, spitting, littering, throwing garbage, using bad language in public whenever irritated. Train the teachers. Would anybody else like to unmute? Honking, yes. I think we're all from the same country here. Anybody else would like to unmute and speak? Okay, so I think we're all on the same page here. We're all understanding what it is that we need to change and what is troubling us. So just backtracking a bit, today India is very proud. I mean, if you look all around the world, we have Indians in high positions, in many companies, in big top MNCs, and they are doing our country proud. Another proud moment is there is a new Prime Minister of the UK, who is the first Indian origin Prime Minister of the UK. I think everybody's very proud about that as well. So what then is the problem? I mean, we Indians are so proud, but there is a problem. If India is so good, why do Indians decide to leave it? Have you ever thought that? I mean, everyone around me, everybody I know, they want to leave. And some of the reasons are, would anyone like to guess? In the chat box again, would anybody like to guess? I think in general, everyone wants a better life. They talk about how clean it is outside, how dirty it is in India, how corrupt. Yes, thank you, Beena. Better lifestyle, standard of living, economic issues, absolutely. We as a race, we are, very proud of our culture and many things that go into making our so-called culture. We Indians indeed have many things to be proud of, no doubt, especially many beautiful things that have been handed over to us through generations and centuries. Can we with equal pride declare that we have a great civic sense too? Certainly not. We as a country are very poor followers of our civic duties and have very poor civic sense. I got this from an article in the Times of India. Is India's civic sense problem a result of our unrealized potential or the cause of it? As any Indian with knowledge or experience of international travel will tell you, things just aren't the same there, and things there are just different and better. Going beyond the basic factors of national wealth and urban planning, why does India seem to be caught in a cycle of disillusionment, a strong sense of public entitlement, and a weak sense of civic responsibility? This was said by Namit Arora, who's an author, humanist, travel photographer, and a former internet technologist. He also has this brilliant talk on YouTube, on TED Talks, and we're going to listen to 5 minutes of what he has to say, because I believe that it is very important for us to hear. Just 5 minutes. Bear with me.
An aunt of mine recently visited Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand, her first time outside India. A month after her return, I asked her about her strongest impressions from this trip. She said, "Their cities are so much cleaner. People behave so much better in public spaces. They follow the rules." "Hum kab sudharenge?" she asked. "When will we improve?" What my aunt was getting at is something a lot of us have known for a while, that we Indians are sorely lacking in civic sense. By civic sense, I mean public behavior that's socially responsible and considerate to others. Examples of our lack of civic sense are everywhere. Just look at how we drive without lane discipline, in the wrong direction, we honk needlessly, use full beam at night, we don't stop at pedestrian crossings or even at red lights. Few of us make room for passing ambulances. We may just have the wildest traffic in the world, which is reflected in our casualty rate that's 5 times higher than the global average. Or look at how we park and use our sidewalks, or what we do to the walls of our cities. Our infamous queuing etiquette, how we litter our streets and dump construction waste right outside our posh apartments, how we burn trash and pollute our air, a very common sight across India, how we contaminate our beaches, lakes, and rivers. Here is a picture that sums up what I'm getting at. This is the border between India and Bhutan. One side is India, the other Bhutan. I'll let you figure out which is which. Now, there certainly are other aspects to civic sense, such as paying your full share of taxes, not bribing, being punctual, not discriminating against your fellow citizens based on caste, gender, religion, and so on. But today I'm focusing on a narrower subset, on general untargeted behaviors in public spaces that are also constant irritants when we go out. So why is civic sense important? because it makes our cities more livable. When was the last time you went out for something as simple as a walk in Gurgaon? I mean, who wants to deal with all the eyesores, bad smells, and smog? Higher civic sense also leads directly to a lower incidence of infectious and other diseases, accidental injuries, and deaths. And finally, higher civic sense leads to greater social trust and cooperation, which is good for economic productivity and growth. Now, this concern for civic sense is not new in India. Many individuals and organizations have tried to raise it. What I'd say, though, is it's an old project that needs fresh energy and scale, especially in light of the massive and largely unplanned growth of urban India. So who do we blame for our general lack of civic sense and the state of our cities? We blame others not like us, such as poor migrants from rural areas. We also blame the government. And yes, the government has an important role to play. It needs to improve our roads, waste management, public transportation. It needs to make sure that a proper driving test precedes every driving license. It needs to invest in smart policies and good urban design. Yes, that's a given. Our urban governments need to do more, and we have to increase and keep up that pressure. Curiously, we don't tend to blame ourselves very much. But if we honestly looked at ourselves in the mirror, we might notice that we, you and I, cause a lot of the problems we complain about. After all, who congests our roads and pollutes our air? Who runs diesel cars and gensets and avoids public transportation and carpooling? Who generates the plastic waste and leaves behind construction rubble? Who parks illegally on sidewalks? Who breaks our traffic laws? Indeed, who causes so many of our urban problems, if not us? Clearly, the government can't fix everything. The government, too, is made up of people like us who lack civic sense. We really need to ask, are smart cities even possible without smart citizens who display civic sense?
So as you can see, the speaker says that we need a fresh approach. It's an old topic that needs a fresh approach. And it also talks about us, we being the ones to blame. So this led me to, really work on curriculum for school children, because I thought that, if we can inculcate this civic sense in them right from the beginning, hopefully they will grow up to be responsible. If they're not getting it at home, why not we as schools incorporate this into our school systems, just like the happiness curriculum, just like life skills. If this also can be, because this, they the future. So if they can, why not start this in schools? So going back to what civic sense is, civic sense is social ethics. A lot of people that it is just about keeping the roads and public property clean. But civic sense is more than that. It has to do with law abiding, respect for fellow men, and maintaining decorum and being responsible in public places. I'm repeating myself. In short, civic sense is common sense. I believe that our children, the future citizens of our country, need to know how to think and act responsibly and be able to contribute to their family, community, village, city, and country, and to be aware of their role as a world citizen. So the organization that I work with right now is called the ACTS Group of Institutions. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because we developed this curriculum in line with the vision and the mission of the organization. So in keeping with the vision and mission of ACTS, civic responsibility, or the responsibility of a citizen, is not just about knowing your rights and duties, but also learning to engage and take action towards building a sustainable society. The vision of the organization is a community of people learning to live, and the mission is fulfilling our vision through integrated holistic education and environmental and health action, and preparing a people who will build a sustainable society. So you can see that this whole thing is in line with the vision and mission of the organization. And I want to say here that there are so many organizations right here in Bangalore that are doing amazing work in the field. Know their rights as citizens and instilling a lot of civic sense in them. But we thought that just for ourselves in small ways, sometimes before we touch on the bigger topics, we just want them to learn how they can make a change right there. Right in their own lives, in their own homes, on their road, in their school. So this is why we developed this curriculum. I want to go to the question how we want to implement it. And Dilip Ranjekar, the CEO of Azim Premji Foundation, in one of his articles, this really inspired me while I was making this curriculum. He said, we are forgetting the power of teachers and the power of school education in developing future responsible citizens of our society. Teachers and the education system have a tremendous influence on the minds of students. If the same system invests in issues such as civic sense, toilet manners, traffic discipline, sensitivity about the impact our actions have on our surroundings, environment, society, and people around us, it would certainly have the power to lay the foundation of the very society that is envisaged by our Constitution. I hope everyone is with me. Could I hear a yes? Could I have a thumbs up? If everyone is with me, like I said, sometimes it's very difficult just talking to a screen. I just want to make sure everyone's with me. Any questions so far? Thank you, everybody. Since children spend most of their time in school, the school should play the role of teaching these children the skills and characteristics that they need to be good citizens and to inspire them to contribute to their community and society. We created a curriculum that touches on the common problems that we see around us every day. And I'm talking about the context is India right now. I live in Bangalore and our schools are here in Bangalore. So right now I'm talking about the context of Bangalore, India. Just as Jane Goodall rightly said, children can change the world. And we hope that through this curriculum, children will be stirred up and in turn pass on this knowledge to their families and communities, slowly bringing about a change in their daily actions. So the name of the curriculum is I Am Learning to Live. We developed it about a couple of years back, and it is up and running in our schools. And it's not a huge thing. You'll find out later. We do it in very small ways, and it's called the ACT Schools Guide to Being a Responsible Citizen. We have these categories in the curriculum. There's public responsibility, there's road responsibility, there's health, safety, respect, and empathy. So we've tried to incorporate everything into this curriculum because we believe that all this is what we need to be responsible citizens. We need to be responsible publicly. We need to have responsibility on the road. Our health is prime issue here. We need to be safe on the roads, in hospitals, wherever we are. We need to show respect to one another and empathy to one another. There are many mini lessons under each category, and these 5-minute mini lessons can be done by the class teacher at any convenient time during the day and should be repeated every day through the week, and there will be one topic per week. If you are here in India, you will know how stressed and stretched the school day is. Teachers are, and principals don't want to give time for anything because focus is always on academics and they just want the textbook to be completed, the portions to be completed, the unit test to be done. So when anything like this comes in the way, they're always a little skeptical. So that is why we made it very small, just 5 minutes that can be done anytime. We try to do it in our schools at the beginning of the day or sometimes at the end of the day when they're packing their bags and ready to leave, so that it's not taking up any time from the other important subjects. So how the lesson is formatted is, the first step is we introduce the topic, and the second step is that the discussion time. So allow children to ask questions and give their opinion. So this is before the teacher actually, after the introduction, the teacher is quiet, and then they give time for students to just speak their mind. Then we have an activity, which could be watching a video or coloring a sheet, a quiz, reading a story, or a newspaper clipping. And remember, everything is very, very, very short. Step 3, that is on the last day. If you finish it in 1 week, that's fine. There's flexibility. You can also spill over into the next week. We ask the children, what did you learn and how can you apply this to your daily lives? Because we really don't want this to be just learning, but we want them to actually apply it into their lives. And at the end of the topic, which is optional and depends on the topic as well, it's a time for action. You can choose a project as a class and take steps to implement it. In some of our schools, they've taken up the topic of keeping the campus clean. So they've been going around and talking to the students about segregating their waste and not leaving pencil sharpenings all over the place by putting everything into the dustbin. So as you can see, these things are how they can bring change right then and there in their own lives. So here are the activity ideas that we give in the book. So for the kindergarten and primary, everything that you see on the left is what you can do in class. For middle and high school, everything on the right is what you can do in class. And here's a sample. So for August, I chose this because I love this picture that I got off Google. It shows an auto driver spitting on the road. So the topic for August is public responsibility. So for week 1, the topic is standing in a queue. For the topic for week 2 is spitting in public. The topic for week 3 is cleaning up your mess. And the topic for week 4 is be cool and carry your own cloth bag. So as you can see, they're just simple, tiny ways in which you can bring change in your own lives without actually waiting for the government to bring about a change, or just being an example and spreading this awareness in their own families. Martin Luther King Jr. said, the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. And we believe that through all this and everything that we've been talking about the past few days, the happiness curriculum, we've heard about Montessori education, we've heard so much. Anuja, thank you so much for putting this together. It has been so wonderful. It's all about intelligence plus character. It's not just about that textbook. It's not just about passing the exam, but it's everything where when we holistically look at each child and build them up, build their character to be the change in their countries. I have actually come to the end of my presentation and it is only 11:26. Are there any questions for me?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anupa. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those amazing TEDx video as well. And you're, covering the importance of teaching civic sense. And it was really, the important values to instill those values in our students in young age, and they can grow up to be change that we would like to see in the world, in our world. That was really amazing. So if you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, please unmute yourself and you can just forward your questions to Ms. Anupa. Thank you very much.
You can disagree with me as well. So
yes,
open to
you can disagree
discussion.
with Anupa as well. That is an option too. That is an option too. So we have people all over the world tuning in for you. They're very attentive and they've been really actively, they're really actively involved in your session, So Pawan Kumar writes, do you see any challenges in teachers facilitating this? How important is it to teachers to model the required behavior?
I'm sorry, excuse me, I have a terrible cough. Pavan, great question. Lots and lots of challenges because the teachers themselves sometimes don't see the importance of this, and they are also modeling bad behavior. So we actually did a couple of months of more discussion. So the way I approach talking to teachers is many times, more discussion rather than me just telling them. I rather they come up with something. So we have a lot of discussion. So we discussed each topic at length. We spoke about various issues, and then they slowly realized the importance of these things. They realized that if I'm happy, if I'm in a clean environment, if I'm not doing this, it's probably going to make an impact. Children will follow me. So we actually spend a lot of time talking to teachers about this, helping them see the importance in it before actually implementing it into the school system. And yes, it is very, very important. So we have a team actually in each school that drives this, and they make sure that teachers are modeling the right behavior. And so we have update meetings every month to make sure that everything is going well. If there are any challenges that need to be addressed. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Pawan, for your question. Thank you so much, Anupa. And if I may add, in respect to educational institutions, so some educational institutions have turned themselves as, let's say, profit-seeking corporates, and learners have been, treated as clients or consumers, and education has been like a packaged and repackaged as a commodity to be sold in a market. So, in this context, I mean, learner who will be unable to buy this commodity will not have the, luxury of, consuming the, let's say, commodity. So in this context, what do you think can civic education achieve?
Wow, that's quite a that's quite a question. Okay, so are you saying that if there is no money involvement, how are we going to move forward with that? Is that have I understood right?
No, what I meant was, like, for example, educational institutions, of course there will be money. Of course we need money to run educational institutions, but some educational institutions are like turning themselves into profit-seeking corporations, and learners are treated as clients and consumers.
Okay.
Some learners will not be able to, unable to buy this commodity and will not have the luxury to consume this commodity. So, what can civic education achieve in that context? Thank you.
Oh, okay. So, I think this whole civic sense topic is, especially in a country like India, where the society is so diverse. Many of the kids from influential families and who go to the bigger private schools, they probably are following certain rules in the sense because they're more exposed, they travel around and they know that they should stand in queues and things like that. But at the same time, they're not using public property, and they're not treating people with empathy and, things like that. And on the other hand, we have kids from government schools or from the economically weaker sections of society who are facing the brunt of, us who are more privileged, our actions. They are facing the brunt of it and they don't care. So I think it has to be addressed differently in different schools. Right now, I'm talking in the context of most of our schools are mostly for the underprivileged section and for middle class and lower, the lower middle class. And so I don't think I can speak for, the other kind of schools, because this is being run in our own schools right now. And so we're addressing the problems that we see among their societies and how they can be a change there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anupa. Thank you so much. And Pawan Kumar shares, great. Thank you for answering that, Anupa. Follow-up question. As the quote says, it takes a village to raise a child. How do we get the other staff of the school model this behavior?
So I think it has to be a whole school approach, Pavan. I mean, like I said, we spent a couple of months talking to teachers, and in turn, we also talk a lot to our support staff, to our drivers, to the leadership. Everyone is on board, to make sure of this. It may be very important to some, it may not be very important to some, but for those who it is important to, they make sure that it becomes important for everybody. So we are trying to make sure that the entire village is on board so that we can raise the children properly. So it's just work in progress. When I don't think we're fully successful, I don't think we may never be, but we can start small. Instead of waiting for that big change, we can start small.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anupa. That was really nicely put. Now we have Bindu Bhatt sharing. Yes, I agree that civic sense is very important for an individual. Character is more important than academics, but slowly and gradually this is reversed. Use of gadgets during pandemic has taken away kids from values and life skills and more relying on content on media than people who, with them who live. So how do you see this and how we as a parent and educator help them out?
I think more and more, Bindu, we are all realizing that it's not only academics and it's everything else that is important. And yes, you're right, especially here in India, academics is given too much importance. But I would like to say that, especially in our schools and with the people that I interact with and in my circle, that many people are realizing that the pandemic has taken a toll on children, on parents, on teachers, on learning, on character, on so many things. And so I think schools have had to reinvent themselves in their own ways. I mean, I don't think there is one approach that is going to fit every school. So each school is trying to figure out what are the problems. For example, in one of the schools that I work closely with, we have found there's a lot of anger among the students. And, there's during the break time, when they're in the toilet, there are kids beating each other up. There's lots of bullying. There's a lot of cyberbullying. And so obviously, this particular school is facing this problem. So we've had to try and find ways to address the problem. I think we as parents and as educators, we need to be aware. We don't just, like, if you're listening to this session, we don't say, okay, this is what is going to work in my school. That's not it. You need to, I think, be aware of everything that's going on and be aware of the problems that you're facing in your school or in your home or with your child or children, and equip yourself to be able to address these needs. So again, I say it's not one size fits all. I think it's just awareness that we need as educators and parents, and we need to be empathetic, we need to be understanding, we need to listen more and model behavior. I think modeling behavior is like a huge thing. And I think all of us in the school system, we just need to approach things holistically. It's just not about life skills. It's not about social and emotional development. It's not only about civic sense. It's not only about the happiness curriculum. It's not only about mathematics. It's about everything. If you look at each child, and each child is unique, and let's see how we can cater to each child. That's how I would approach it, Bindu.
Thank you. Thank you, Anupa. Thank you, Bindu. Susu shares, thank you. Interesting topic. Alexander from Ghana shares, absolute change derives from the mindset. If there's a change of mindset, civic sense will be whole and exact. Great topic in context. Good job, Anupa. And Beena Thamman shares, we need to teach our kids the basic moral values of social connect with the grandparents, respect for elders, keeping the community clean, and tolerance. Structure. Thank you, Beena. And Bindu Bhatt says, thank you, ma'am. So if you have any more questions for Anupa, ladies and gentlemen, please do unmute yourself. We do have 15 more minutes. If you have any more questions, please do unmute yourself, and Anupa will be here to answer them. And I would like to remind you, Anupa's presentation and session will be showcased on our platform, educationinfluence.com, after the event, and we will be emailing you all with the details very soon. So if you do not have any questions, we will be taking a short 15 minutes break. And thank you so much, Anupa, for your amazing session. Thank you for being part of Education Influence Global Conference. Thank you so much for representing India. Thank you so much. And before we move on, we have Sriya Chatterjee questioning how to implement in senior secondary classes like grade 12.
I think, Anusha, thank you for those kind words, and thank you to everybody who have said such wonderful things on the chat. Thank you so much. Shreya, I think that in the senior secondary classes, like in grade 11 and 12, even from 9 and 10 onwards, they're already ready to, reason and analyze and solve problems. So yesterday, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, I attended a design thinking session. Anusha, am I right? Someone conducted it. Yeah, so yes, absolutely. So, implementing it in the senior secondary classes, you can use the design thinking model. When I was listening to her presentation on day 2, I was thinking that so many of the topics here in the civic awareness can be approached with the design thinking model. So Shreya, I request you to, when all the recordings come out, go back to that or just read up online, because I think that, let those students who can already think, who have the capacity to go out and do stuff and who are independent, let them find ways. Instead of you telling them what to do, let them, give them a topic, let them brainstorm together, let them work in teams, find solutions to the problem. There's an amazing school called Riverside School in Ahmedabad, and that school does this design thinking in such an amazing way. So I have read some case studies of how they've found the problem of potholes on their roads, and the students have come up with solutions on how they can solve this problem. Again, instead of waiting for the government, which sometimes might never intervene, the students have been able to come up with some amazing solutions. So you should go there and just check it out. I think just allowing the students to come up with their own, because they're so, I think students they're so much more aware. They have so much more access to information these days. When we were growing up, I mean, we didn't have anything. So they really have access to so much, and they will be able to come up with amazing things.
Thank you, Anupa. Thank you, Shreya. Prabha shares, thank you, Anupa, insightful session. And Shreya shares, certainly we will go through it. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your participation. Thank you, Anupa, once again.